accordingly. If you just came on, I was talking about how we're shifting again for the month of May. So we'll be focusing a little bit more on the area of our core. What does that mean? Well, sometimes we think it just means a six-pack, but it's actually all the muscles that wrap around our torso that help keep our upper half and lower half connected and stable. So there's an array of muscles that we want to target. It's not just the front of our body. There's a lot going on in the back of the body and the side of the body to assist in that support. And usually we want to target these deeper abdominal muscles, not just the surface layer. So trying to get into our transverse abdominals that run all the way around the waist as well. So as we move through some of these things today, just move with the breath. We'll utilize our breath to support us throughout our practice. So any questions, comments, you can always put them in the chat box. I'll mute us for now, but feel free to unmute yourself at any time as needed. All right, y'all. So I am going to have us start where we've been starting our Sunday morning class, and that is child's pose, if that works for your body. If for whatever reason child's pose doesn't work for you today or in general, you're always welcome to start in a seated position, supine, however you can position yourself so that you can take the beginning moments of our practice to reconnect to our body and our breath. My regulars, you kind of know what I want us to have around us. If you're new to me, you don't need a lot of fancy yoga props, but a pillow would be handy. Just a pillow off the bed. A throw blanket of some kind. Nice to have near our mat. I'm going to adjust my camera here in a second. I also have just a bath towel. It's a nice prop to have to utilize to fold in different ways to support the back of the head. Now, if you do have yoga blocks, great. Other pillows and cushions you want to bring into your practice, that is wonderful. Please do so. So in our child's pose, wide child's pose would be an option to take here, opening our knees wider than our hips. So that's already going to give us a start to a hip opener, allowing those knees to extend out to the long edges of the mat. This is a big stretch for that low back and our lumbar spine. Awesome, Kathy, good. So we'll feel that. And especially first thing in the morning, for me, my tight low back, it might take me several deep breaths, even longer. Some days I don't even get there right away, for my head to make contact with the floor. So if the head isn't easily touching the floor, instead of extending the fingertips to the front of our yoga mat, let's support our forehead with stacked fists or some type of prop underneath the forehead. My knee people, remember you can always sit back on a pillow or a folded blanket, so there's not as much compression around those knee joints. Once you're in a comfortable position here, let's try to let go of the belly. Allow it to expand with the breath, sink towards the ground. Try to melt the heart towards the ground. If we do have our fingertips extended forward, that'll give us a nice stretch along our side bodies. And again, with the head, just allow the weight of the head to sink towards the earth here. Bringing our mind into our body and bringing our awareness within the four corners of our mat this morning. So let's start to mentally move through the physical body. Continuing to let go of any tension or stress we might find. So we're relaxing the muscles that are able to soften, loosening through the joints. Letting go of any expression across the face. As we take inventory, if we do find areas that need a little extra TLC this morning, we will pause into those areas, send a healing breath into them, and allow them to relax, remembering that we will give ourselves permission to adjust and modify throughout today's class. And now let's spread the awareness to the rhythm of the breath. Begin by observing and watching the body breathe. Smooth, even breath in and out through the nose. Every inhale, an opportunity to draw in more fresh air, prana, and energy this morning. Those exhales are just as important to exhale away stale old air and energy. And allow this breath to create that space of the length of the spine. Start to recognize the lower half of the body and its strong connection with the ground below, with gravity, simultaneously allowing the stretch up through the upper half of the body, around the waist, the rib cage, vertebra by vertebra, lengthening and extending. Even though the upper half of the body is also in contact with the ground here, feel a sense of lightness and length. One more breath in this position. Make it a nice big breath, inhaling as much air as we possibly can into our body this morning. And on that next exhale, taking our time to exhale every drop out, trying to empty the body completely. The next breath in will start to wake the body back up, gently floating the head up, adjusting the hands to help the upper body come up. And then we'll bring the whole body up and move right into our tabletop position. Walking the hands as wide as the shoulders, fingers spread nice and wide, press into the earth. Stack those knees directly underneath the hips, having a little bit of space between our knees and our feet, forming that tabletop position. Tops of the feet connected to the ground or toes tucked under, your choice. Draw in through that lower belly. Now we'll open the eyes of the knees by stretching our right leg straight back from the hip. So the ball of the foot is to the floor, equal weight in the hands, and we may shift our weight back as much as we want to give the back of that leg a nice big stretch. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, bring the right knee down. Other side, hip should remain level, parallel to the floor. Give that left leg a nice big stretch. We're pressing through that heel towards the ground. Feel that opening in the eye of the knee here. Be mindful of where the head is in space. Deep breath in. Exhale, brings that knee down. Continuing to move with the breath. Inhale, relax the belly. Lift the tailbone and elongate that spine even more, all the way up to the crown of the head. Drishti forward into cow pose. Exhale, draws the belly in, scoops that tailbone under, rounding the spine up to the ceiling. Draw the chin to the chest, drishti to the belly button, cat stretch. Follow your breath. Evenly and as smoothly as possible, in and out through the nose. When we go in our gentle back bend, keep the spine long. And the exhale allows us to create even more space through the back, stretching the muscles. Getting that movement around the hips, through the vertebra, around the neck and shoulders. Little side movements, little movements more in the shoulders or neck, totally acceptable. We're just using this opportunity to loosen things up even more. And then let's balance ourselves out. We'll meet back in a neutral position and we'll walk ourselves towards the back of our mat. So we're going to start with our low flow, now starting to wake up our muscles even more. It's going to be really important to stay in contact with these deeper abdominal muscles so that we can support the low back. Let's have our toes tucked under. Walk the hands about one hand's distance forward, arms are at an angle. Drawn through the lower belly. And on the inhale, we'll shift our weight forward into a kneeling plank. So we are restacking our joints here, shoulders over wrists. We're scooping that tailbone under, trying to form a straight line through the torso from the shoulder joint to the knee joint. Exhale, draw the belly in even more. Rock back to our bow. The head does not need to touch the ground. Lift your palms up into Hasta Bandha in the hands, as if you were holding on to two tennis balls. That will stretch out the shoulders and the wrists. Inhaling, kneeling plank. Those of us that want, float those knees up. One that will give you a good idea about your alignment and also a little bit more strengthening. Exhale, knees down, lead with the navel, pulling it into the body. Take a bow, pop the palms. One more, inhaling, kneeling or full plank. Exhaling, take the bow. We're gonna add on. So our next inhale is gonna bring us forward. Keep those abdominal muscles engaged. Exhale, squeeze the elbows into the rib cage on the outside and lower all the way down to our belly. That chin comes forward, the hands slide underneath the shoulders. Keep pulling the shoulder blades together and down the back. Flatten out the tops of the feet. Open your feet wider than the hips if you take care of the low back, or zip the feet and legs to touch. Inhale, squeezing the muscles of the upper, mid, lower back, even the glutes. Lift the heart, Bhujangasana. On the exhale, we're gonna come back down, kissing the mat or dropping the forehead to the floor. Inhale, squeeze upper, mid, lower back, even the glute support, Bhujangasana, cobra pose. Exhale, kiss the mat or forehead to the floor. Two more. Inhale, squeezing the back to lift up. A little bit more. Hands also lift up. Pull those elbows in towards the body. Exhale, head and hands can come down. One more. Inhale, lift up. Legs are strong. Press the tops of those feet into the ground. Now this exhale, we're going to take a quick break. You may stack your hands, flaring your elbows out and resting your forehead or a temple on your hands. You may also slide your arms all the way down beside the body in a prone shavasana, palms up, head turned to one side. More importantly, let the heels drop open, relax the buttocks completely, give your hips a little wiggle, relax the muscles of the back. We're going to do more back strengthening here, getting into that back line. So we'll take breaks in this position in between. Inhale, chin forward, hands underneath the shoulders. Engage all the way down the legs and the tops of the feet. Elbows squeeze in. Inhale, lift up, Bhujangasana. This time we're holding and squeezing. So it's important to engage through the glutes. Keep the back of the neck long. The eyes can move slightly forward to the front of the mat. Extend the arms now beside the body, floating the arms, palms face the floor. Reach the fingertips to the toes, our half locust position. From here, inhale, squeeze the right side even more, so the right buttock and hamstring, lifting the right leg straight up from the floor, Adho Shalabhasana. Exhale, bring it down. Left side, keep the leg as straight as possible, squeeze the back line. Left glute hamstring, lift up, half locust. Exhale down. Now you may repeat one leg at a time, or you may come into Purna Shalabhasana. Inhaling, arms, legs, whole body up. Trying to balance on the rim of our hips here. Brush, keep moving. Balance yourself out right to left. Take another breath in, both leg people. This exhale, we're gonna come down. Find your resting position. If your head was turned to one side, turn it to the opposite side to counter twist the neck. Let the whole body come down to the ground. Relax the glutes. Let the heels flop open. Try to take some abdominal breaths here. So as you inhale, we let the belly expand. It'll press into the floor, which will translate into the low back, allowing the low back to get a nice stretch. And then exhale, let it go. Inhale, chin forward, hands underneath those shoulders, engage down the legs into the feet. Inhale, lift up the heart. This time we slide our elbows straight forward into our Sphinx pose. So that elbow joint is stacked right underneath the shoulder joint. Knife the pinky edge of the hands into the ground here. We're still relaxing the back of the body. So heels flopped open, give your hips a little wiggle, try not to engage the glutes. If you're not sure, squeeze the buttocks as tight as you can, and then let it release and drop. Now the arms are gonna do most of the work, so press into the earth. Inhale, try to pull your spine more forward, feeling that stretch through those abdominal muscles, trying to gaze forward, extending up to the crown of the head. This is going to be a little break before some more strengthening, so let's try to release the muscles around our neck. Exhale, peeking over our right shoulder, see how far you can see. Inhale, bring that head back to neutral. Exhale over that left shoulder, eyes open wide, give that neck a nice little twist. Bring it back. One more time to each side. Inhale, head comes back to center after you've balanced yourself out. Interweave all 10 fingers at this point. Tuck those toes under. So we're gonna pull those abdominal muscles back into the body, trying to pull our belly away from the floor. Now start to pull in the lower rib cage. Your drishti can be at your knuckles. Press into the ground through the forearms. As you can continue to contract the front of the body, lift the hips, lift the thighs. We should eventually find ourselves in a kneeling plank position. This is a pretty powerful pose. Take breaks as needed. Try to lift one knee from the floor. Bring it down. Squeeze and lift the other knee from the floor. Bring it down. Repeat one knee at a time, or those of us that want strong core engagement, lifting both knees up, trying to hover the body parallel to the floor. Good. Smile and breathe. Balance yourself outside to side. Next exhale, we'll all come back down to the ground, dropping the knees, the thighs, the belly. Inhale, gaze forward for a moment to Sphinx pose. And then exhale, take your prone resting pose, flaring the elbows out, turning the head the opposite direction again, or sliding the arms down beside the body. We're just observing, heart rate went up a little bit, that's totally normal. Just come back to the breath. And then once again, chin forward, hands under the shoulders. This time tuck those toes under, pull that belly in, squeeze your elbows in, leading with the core, try to press into the ground. We're pushing back up to kneeling plank. Walk those knees back underneath the hips, tabletop. Start off with some very gentle cat-cows. So we did some back bending there. So it might feel like we have a little bit more freedom to move into a bigger cow stretch. But let's take our time counter stretching into our cat pose. And then from here, let's walk our hands 1 hand's distance forward. Arms are more at an angle. Again, and draw into the low belly. Press into the ground, start to hover the knees, lift the hips up, and then we'll shift our weight down the back of our legs, Adho Mukha Svanasana. From here, adjust your stance as needed. If the heels don't touch, don't worry about it. Bend your knees more deeply if you need to help release that back this morning. Let's go ahead and stretch out the backs of those legs even more, all the way up into the hamstrings. On the inhale, lift your heels up as high as you can. Get into the crease of the toes. On the exhale, drop the right heel down to the floor. Bend the left knee and really feel that stretch in the back of the knee. Inhale, heels up. Exhale, other side, left heel down, right knee bends. Open up the back of the left knee. Now you may continue to walk your dog at any pace, really concentrating on that stretch up the back of the legs from the Achilles into the hamstrings through the back of that knee. Root down through the mound of the index fingers and thumbs, taking some pressure out of the wrists. Roll those upper arm bones away from the ears. The neck should be long and loose. Good. You can always take breaks coming back down to the knees or child's pose whenever you want. And down dog, let's find a moment of stillness here. So just let the body absorb the pose. Take one complete breath. The next inhale, look forward. Baby step those feet and hands towards each other, moving into Uttanasana, forward fold. Some of us modify like myself, so I bend my knees and I place the weight of my elbows on my thighs. If you're staying upside down in our inversion and full forward fold, you may reach the fingertips towards the floor. You may also take a hold of your elbows, ragdolling the upper body. It's very important that the feet, the legs, and the abdominal muscles are engaged to support that low back. If you're modifying, you can dangle one arm at a time, trying to release the weight of the arm out of that shoulder socket to loosen up that area of the body. You can also do gentle little nods and shakes with the head as is comfortable. We are going to work on some of our back strengthening here. Ardha Uttanasana, or halfway lifts. So the next inhale, bring your hands to your shins or higher. I'm modifying today, so I'm going to keep a micro bend in my knees and hands on my thighs. Squeeze the muscles of the back, lift the heart, pull your shoulder blades down onto the back and try to iron and flatten out that back. Good. Exhale, your fold, whatever that looks like for you. The deeper you go down, the more that low back has to work to lift you up, and that's okay, as long as it doesn't create tension. Inhale. Lift the heart by squeezing and toning the back. Those of you that want, you may add your locust arms, bringing the arms beside the torso. The palms will face each other. Squeeze the upper back. Exhale, forward fold. One more. Inhale, halfway lift. Super strong legs, core. Adding those locust arms is fine. On the exhale, we're going to sit back to Utkatasana. So we're bending our knees more deeply, sitting in towards that invisible chair. The arms will eventually stretch forward and upwards. Important that our feet are parallel and the knees are pointing towards the toes. Low belly's pulled in. Make sure our shoulders are shrugging away from our ears. Option to place hands in front of the heart center at any time. We'll go right into a little bit of balance. Focus the drishti on one spot. Let's try to hover the right foot from the floor, picking it up, ungluing it. Bring it down. Other side. You can shift your body weight a little bit. Try to contract up through these muscles to help it lift. Exhale it down. Maybe we try to sit a little further back and down. Core is engaged, knees point forward. Inhale, breathing. Stretch everything up to the ceiling. So straighten the legs, straighten the arms. Utthita Tadasana, extended mountain, drishti upwards, little back bend. Turn those palms out. Exhale, float the arms beside the body into Tadasana. Let's take a moment here, just feeling our foundational pose. Pick up those toes. Press strongly through the mound of the big toe and inner heel, mound of the pinky toe, outer heel. Even though we want to open the eyes of those knees back there, make sure we're not just jamming our kneecaps backwards. So we want to unlock the knees slightly so there's some stability through the muscles of the body. Let's lengthen through that low back, dropping the tailbone towards the heels. Drawing in slightly, we can think about those lower locks also helps create that stability. So lifting in and up through Mula Bandha, the pelvic floor. A lifting in and up through Uddiyana Bandha, just below the navel center. Toes are still up, great. Let's turn the palms forward and spread the fingers as wide as our toes. Feeling a soft engagement in the upper back. Head is just floating on our shoulders. Our palm tree pose, we do this every class. Inhale, reach out. Reach it all the way up. Lift the heels up. Grow 4, 5, 6 inches taller. Palms touch. Try to slowly lower the heels back down. The hands will come to our center. 2 more times, follow the breath. Again, if this pose, because we do it all the time, is becoming second nature, we want to challenge our balance a little bit more. One thing that really challenges our balance is our vision. So you can try to follow the hands with the eyes, looking upwards to the fingertips when we reach up. And looking down towards the ground when we come down. And I lied. Let's do one more today. It feels really good. I need to stretch my body out this morning. Big breath, big reach, as tall as we can get. Good. Exhale. Bring it down. All right, so we'll go into some of our standing posture work. We'll need to rearrange ourselves a little bit today. Let's do our hamstring work first. So we'll do Parsvottanasana first. If you have a folding chair, you may use it, and you can place it either the front or back of your mat. We'll be facing our props. If you have yoga blocks, you can use those as well. This pose is sometimes called pyramid pose in English. If you have 2 yoga blocks, I would suggest starting with them on their highest setting, about shoulder width apart, to one short end of your mat. Doesn't matter, whichever way you want to be. When we move into this pose, we'll start in Tadasana. So we definitely want to have a few inches between our feet. And we'll keep that space between our feet the whole time. We're not going to step back into a tightrope and try to be here. We want those hips to have a little bit more freedom. And we also want to remember that the movement is all around the pouring of the pelvis. There's no rounding down through the spine here. It's all here. And that's going to intensify the stretch up the back of one leg. So once we're situated, we have a little assistant here waiting for us. This is more to help us come up out of the pose, at least for me. So feet hips width apart, arms in Tadasana, float the head on the shoulders. Turn the palms out, inhale, big stretch up. So we're creating this length in the upper half of the body and spine. We want to keep it throughout this whole pose. Exhale, hands come back down onto the hips. Hips face forward, step back with that right foot. Now it's not a big lunging stance. It's maybe 24 inches or so. The right toes will angle out just slightly, maybe 10 degrees, but the hip should still face forward. So if your hip shifted, right hip forward, left hip back. Pull into those lower bandhas. We'll be stretching the back of the left leg. Big breath in, lengthen. Exhale, hinge from the hips. Make sure you're not locking into your knee joints, so unlock those knee joints. Use the core to support the body to come down. If we are going to bring our fingertips onto our props, try not to shift all your weight forward into the hands. We're going to play a little bit with how we're holding our weight in our feet here in a second. Inhale, create more length in the spine. Exhale, as these muscles start to stretch this morning, we might be able to hinge a little further. Again, we're feeling this up the back of the left leg. Some people will also feel this in the lower right leg, the right Achilles and calf, if we have really tight calf muscles. If you happen to be moving further down into the pose, fingertips coming further down towards the ground, you can bring your drishti to that left big toe. It will give us the option of making that forehead to knee connection today. If you're in that deep of a position, belly's on the thigh, you may then add Jalandhara Bandha, throat lock, chin to chest, and you may try to encourage your forehead towards the knee, even if that means bending that left knee forward slightly. Otherwise, just concentrate on lengthening, opening up that back of the left leg and hamstring. Now I want us to just play very subtly in how we're holding our weight in this pose for a couple more breaths. So try to shift more of your weight into your back foot. Try to shift a little bit more forward into the front foot. And just observe how that affects the posture with the body. And then apply as much pressure into either one of those feet, or which foot you felt like you were receiving stability and stretching and opening. So maybe that little shift back, maybe that little shift forward. And you can do this in the hips too. We are trying to keep the hips balanced, the low back level. But you can kind of do a subtle shift over to the right, subtle shift over to the left. And just that little movement can change how the posture feels on the body. Good. One more breath wherever you are. Some of us are in an inversion. Good. We'll get a little bit more blood flow towards the head. Next inhale is going to bring us halfway out, especially those of you that are in that inversion and that deeper forward fold. Make sure you walk your fingertips forward. You're able to elevate the head and the heart about halfway to help regulate your blood pressure. If we're using our props here, fingertips to props. Now re-engage. Sometimes we're just enjoying that stretch so much we lose the strengthening part, so make sure your feet, legs are engaged. Use the core. Exhale, one hand at a time to the hips. And then inhale, press off that front foot. Big breath in to come up. All the way up through the crown of the head. Exhale, right foot steps forward. Gaze forward, arms out in Tadasana. Observe and breathe. Turn the palms out. Inhale, reach out and up. A lot of lengthening here. Keep that length up through the upper half of the body. Exhale, hands to hips. Keep those hips square. Step back with the left foot. Again, a little bit smaller distance than the lunging stance. Left toes may turn out slightly. If the hip shifted, re-square the hips. Left hip forward, right hip back. Trying to keep those hips level and square throughout the entire posture. Open the heart, take a deep breath in, stay connected to that core. On the exhale, the movements here in the pelvic bowl, tipping it forward. You can come down a little bit, create more length. And then exhale, as those muscles stretch, may allow us to continue to physically move a little further into the pose. Make sure we're not jamming into those knee joints, the legs are straight. So we'll feel this up the back of the right leg, big hamstring stretch here. One side might feel quite different than the other, that's normal. If we're bringing fingertips to props, again, make sure you're not putting all of your weight into those hands. Try to keep your weight through the legs into the feet. You can adjust your drishti to right big toe. And if you end up in a position, fingertips to the floor, belly to the thighs, you may add that forehead to knee engagement. Jalandhara Bandha, throat lock, chin to chest, trying to draw the forehead towards the knee. It would be okay to bend that knee slightly to make that connection happen. See how that feels for the mind and the body. Same thing on this side. Let's play with that subtle shift of weight. Shifting the weight into the back foot a little bit more. Shifting the weight into the front foot a little bit more. Finding a place that feels best for our body. We are trying to keep those hips level and square, but we can do a little swaying side to side, left to right. See how that might change the pose for us today. One more breath. Inhale, floats the head up, especially those of you still in your inversion. Walk your fingertips forward. Use your props. Try to lift that heart up about halfway to help regulate our blood pressure. Make sure we're re-engaged through those legs and the feet. Draw that low belly in. Exhale, one hand at a time to those hips. Inhale, pressing off that front foot. Come all the way up to the crown of the head. Look forward, exhale, step forward, arms out, Tadasana. Pause here for a moment. And then relax and release. So we got big stretch up into those hamstrings. Now we're going to do a little side to side movement in Trikonasana, which will turn into our balancing pose, Ardha Chandrasana, or half moon. So these postures tone and strengthen the side bodies here, again, which helps create that stability around the whole torso. It'll also give our inner thighs and legs a little bit more of a stretch. To keep us all on the same page, let's take, if we're using a block or a prop for our triangle or half moon, bring it to your left side. We'll start going to our left side today. If you have two yoga blocks, you can put one to the front and one to the back. I'm actually going to practice unsupported triangle today, and I invite you to do the same because this will keep us a little bit more in touch with those core muscles. So we'll want to be facing the long edge of our mat, feet and legs touching, fingertips float to heart. When we're ready, inhale, take a big step out here on our mat. So it's a pretty wide stance. We're trying to align our ankles as close as we can underneath our wrists. We'll start with our feet running parallel, toes pointing forward. Remember, when we extend the arms out, we're not squeezing them up into our upper shoulders or neck, drop them down. Instead, press into invisible ledges and feel the triceps and the lats do more of the work. From here, pick up your left toes, spiral them out to the left edge of the yoga mat. This opens and externally rotates that left thigh. We are trying to keep our hips and shoulders open in this pose instead of our closed position from our first posture. Now we can tip into the hips a little bit. So I'm drawing my left hip crease in. That does not collapse my left side. This side stays just as long. Make sure your knees are unlocked. Inhale, extending forward towards those toes. Knees should be pointing towards the toes. You can always look down and make sure they're there. On the exhale, windmilling the arms. So unsupported triangle means I have my bottom hand in front of that thigh and knee, but also gives me a reminder to not collapse the knee inward, but draw more up to the outer thigh. Using the inner thighs, a little bit of leverage, I might be able to create a little more rotation through the upper back. So there is a little rotation going on through the heart, drawing the heart forward and upwards. The neck should be an extension of the spine, so the neck stays long without falling or collapsing it down. Top hand reaches skyward. Now, you're more than welcome to work fingertips to a block, to the inner ankle or calf. If you did place a chair there that gives your body and back some support, feel free to use it. Notice the breath. Try picking up the toes and the feet, equal weight in the feet. Receiving that nice big stretch up the back and inner left leg. Eventually we can take our drishti up to that top thumb as long as we can keep the neck long. You may also be gazing down or forward. One more breath. Now the inhale is what pulls us up. If your fingertips are grounded, bring the hand back in front of that inner thigh. Use your strong legs and core. Inhale, those muscles along the side body pull us up out of the pose to neutral. Good. Spiral the left toes to face forward. Shoulders and hips are open. Pick up the right toes, turn them to the other short end of the mat, all the way up into that thigh bone. Hips and shoulders still opening to the long edge of the mat. Make sure we're not collapsed in the knee joints. Unlock the knees, keep them straight. A little tip in the pelvis is okay, drawing that right hip crease in, but maintaining the length through both side bodies. Inhale, extending slightly forward. Exhale, windmilling the arms. Now you might be in a position where your bottom hand is much closer towards the ground. That's fine. More importantly, maintain side bodies, opening of the heart. Bottom hand can be a reminder to keep that knee tracking to the toes. You can have a look, make sure it is, pulling through that outer thigh. Drishti can stay down, forward, or upwards. We can use that unsupported hand to press into that thigh, adding a little leverage to rotate the heart upwards. Keep the neck long. Equal weight in the feet. Pick up the toes if you don't feel it. If you've moved your fingertips to a prop, make sure you're still engaged, the legs and the core, for one more breath. All right, inhale pulls us up. So now we have to contract those muscles along the left-hand side, reaching ourselves up, strong legs and core. Spiral the right toes forward. Exhale, take a break in those arms. Drop them, noodle them. Roll the shoulders. Okay, so we're gonna revisit a triangle-like position and then try to lift into half moon pose. This is gonna be that whole side area of the body. So let me just show you. We'll go back to the left foot, turning it toes to the short end of the mat. We can reach the arms out. We're actually gonna bend it into that knee. Just watch. I'm gonna bring the right hand to the hips. I don't wanna think about where it is in space. And then I can reach towards the floor, hopping my back foot in a step. This chair is probably a little too close. And then I'm gonna end up squeezing the muscles to lift that leg up. Hand can be hovering from the floor. Some people like to use yoga blocks down there, but that yoga block can be a little unsteady. You're always welcome to use a wall. And Ardha Chandrasana, we're still trying to open the hips, the heart. That foot should be nice and active. It's pressing into an invisible ledge. Eventually, maybe we bring the upper arm up. Okay, so, and then when we come out, we'll kind of fall back into a warrior two, so we're gently landing on our joints. So if you want to put those yoga blocks back out there or any type of prop, you can. So we're still in this wide stance. Inhale, arms out. Pick up those left toes, turn them out. So this thigh bone's opening again. So we're starting to extend forward. Now bend into this knee a little bit. And what I do is I just kind of hop my back foot in. So now I'm on the ball of the foot. So this gives me that little bit of buoyancy. And then I got to squeeze those side muscles to start to lift my right leg up. And then the body tips. Now we're not trying to face the floor. You're trying to face open to the long edge of the yoga mat. Actively flex that right foot. Good. We're going to come in and out of this pose quite a bit. I did as well. No big deal. This is also going to be a really big stretch for that inner thigh and hamstring, especially those of us who have tight muscles there. Pull the belly in. Where's the head in space? Can we stack the shoulders? You have your fingertips to a yoga block or a prop. That's okay. Maybe we try to roll our drishti up to that top hand. For 3, breathing. 2, 1. Take a big breath in. On the exhale, we're going to just try to gracefully fall back into a warrior two stance so we're not locked into our joints. Good, good. Now inhale, straighten that leg. Exhale, relax the arms. Because we might have ended up in a funky place from where we started. So we'll just bring ourselves back into the center of our mat, reposition the legs. If you are using some sort of prop, I'll try to use the yoga block. If you are using the yoga block, you want it kind of to be out at a diagonal from your pinky toe. So when you set it up, you kind of put it a little bit behind you. So in our wide stance, inhale, arms out. Pick up the right toes, externally rotate that thigh out. Body's still open here, just like triangle pose. We'll bend in. I'm in a small space here. We'll bend into that front knee. And as we lean forward, like we did into triangle a little bit, you can hop your back foot in. So I'm buoyant. I've given myself a little bounce. And then I'm gonna press my right foot into the floor, activate my left leg. I have to use all these muscles up the side of my body. I'm starting to tip. Now I can try to stay in unsupported half moon pose, hovering, or use that yoga block just underneath the shoulder. Really hug those muscles to the bone, especially around the waistline. We come out of the pose, that's okay. Just come back to it. Actively work that left leg in the air. Stack the shoulders, neck is long. Next challenge is to bring the drishti up to that top hand. Are we breathing? For 3, 2, 1. Inhale. Exhale safely. Let that back leg come down. Warrior 2-ish type position. Good. Straighten the leg. Relax the arms. Whew, that's an energizing pose. I like that one. I showed you guys this a while before, and you probably already know, but just to get some muscle memory, if you have an empty wall at home, I don't know if I can do it there, half moon pose is really quite nice to do. I don't have enough space, but to do along a wall. You guys have a little bit of space between your foot and the wall, so you have room for your hip, and then you come in, you just kind of lean against that wall. Almost feels like you could just stay here all day. So that can be a little bit of homework for you. All right, so we got into those legs and those hips a little bit. Let's bring it back down. So let's all meet back in Tadasana at the front of our mat, standing nice and tall. Ears over shoulders, shoulders over hips. Turning those palms out. Inhale, reach out in that big stretch. Drishti to thumbs for a gentle back bend. Exhale, micro bend the knees, hinge from the hips. Swan dive those arms back and around and down to your forward fold Uttanasana. Hang out here for a moment. Once again, trying to release the head around the shoulders, even if you're modifying with one elbow on a thigh. Inhale, halfway lift. Pull those shoulder blades onto your back, gaze slightly forward. Exhale, bend the knees, plant the hands. Big step back into Shantalanasana or plank pose. So we've already done a few planks today. We're gonna try to do one more. We're just gonna hold this one for 30 seconds. You may be in kneeling plank, forearm plank, whatever plank you'd like. If you're in full plank, press through the hands equally into the first knuckles of the fingertips. Make sure the head is floating in line with the spine. Do activate all the way around the waist. Open up the eyes of those knees. Press those heels back. Now feel like you're trying to pull your whole body towards your midline, as if you're dragging your hands to your feet to your hands to intensify this pose. Don't sag those hips. You're stiff as a board. We're almost there. 3, 2, 1. Inhale, hips up. Exhale, shift the weight back and down the legs. Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Feel a little heat in the body, heart working for us, all good benefits of that pose. Come back to a smooth, even breath. Inhale, heels up as high as we can go. Exhale, drop down to the knees, point the toes. Those of us that are able, sit your hips back to your heels, child's pose. Sweep the hands back to the feet, palms up. Drop the weight of the arms and the head to the ground. Hands under the shoulders, tuck the chin. Inhale, we're gonna roll it up one vertebra at a time. Feel free to transition through tabletop. Shift the weight over to either hip, feet come forward. All right, so we're gonna get into a little bit of that abdominal work, create a fire, some tapas on the inside. So if you have a yoga block, you can use it. If you have a book Other type of object, you can use it. The heavier it is, I have light foam blocks. If you have the core blocks, they're going to be a little heavier. Next pose is not going to be for everybody, especially my low back people. You know, we normally do the roll downs. This is going to be, we haven't done in a while, where we roll down a little bit and come back up. Go a little further, come back up. So it can strain the low back. So if you don't want to do these, just go on down to your back right now. You can do happy baby, you can do bridge lifts, you can do something else with your body if this is going to put too much pressure on your low back. Better to take care. Those of us that want to attempt to do the roll downs and roll ups, it is articulation of the spine. So we are allowing the back to round. We're not keeping a straight back and doing these crunches like this. We're rolling through the body, trying to ripple that strength through the muscles. So we sit about halfway, we plant the soles of the feet, knees are open wide, and you don't even need a prop. Your fingertips can just be stretched forward. I like having something here, just kind of helps my awareness a little bit. So we start out small with these. So I'm going to pull the belly in, and I'm going to try to roll down just a couple inches onto the sacrum, and then inhale, reach my prop back forward and up. Exhale, pull that belly in. I'm going to try and go a little step further. This is usually a little harder, trying to get into the lumbar. And then inhale, come up. Little further. Exhale. Sacrum, lumbar. See if you get to a little bit of that middle back. Inhale, come up. I haven't done these in a while, and I can feel it. Exhale. Belly in. Sacrum, lumbar, mid-back, tips of the shoulders. Inhale. Oh, we got to do more of these, guys. Come all the way back up. This one's the hard one. We're exhaling. We're taking it slow. Sacrum, lumbar, mid-back, shoulders. Let the back of the head touch. And inhale. Head, shoulders, low back, mid-back. Good job. This time, we're going to do the same. Pull that belly in. Roll all the way down, slowly, slowly, slowly. Once we get down to the ground, we're going to stay down this time. You can reach your arms and your prop overhead if you still have it. Straighten out the legs on the middle of the mat. We'll all catch up here, long body stretch. Point and flex the feet, spread the fingers, let your low back arch slightly off the ground. So we're going to come into some more abdominal work. I would like you to have some type of prop at this point. It can even be a pillow. Don't use anything too heavy, because I don't want you to drop it. Like maybe a little pillow, a cushion. If you don't have any of that, you could even have your towel folded into a little bit of a square. Okay, but it's going to be more fun if you have something. If you don't, you can still do it. Don't worry about it. Walk your feet in. Hug your knees in for a moment. Just stretch out the back. So I'm going to show you the modification first, and then those of us that want to go a little bit deeper into it today, we can. So the modification is we have our prop in our hand, and for this one, turn it short way so the prop is, or if you have a yoga block. And on the inhale, where knees are bent, I'm just going to touch my toes to the ground and try to reach my arms overhead at an angle, or they might go a little further, that's fine. On the exhale, I'm going to bring my knees up. I'm going to place my prop between my knees, and then I'm going to do the same thing. Inhale, touch my toes, arms overhead. And then I'm going to exhale. So if you don't have the prop, you're just touching your knees. I'm going to take the prop in my hands, touch my toes, reach overhead. I'm going to keep going. The exhale brings the limbs together. The inhale opens me up. Low back should stay grounded the whole time. It's okay if you're you have a little arch, but if you start to really arch your spine away from the floor, it's probably a sign you need to do a little less. Now, those of us that want to go a step further, next time my limbs come together, I'm going to straighten my legs up to the ceiling. As much as they'll go, hopefully they're a little bit longer from our stretching we did. And now I'm going to reach the prop up to my feet. And I'm going to extend my legs out, my arms overhead. Now, I'm only going to go a few degrees today because I am taking care of that low back. Some of you might be able to bring your legs closer to the ground. If your back arches all the way up the floor, you've gone too far. Exhale, reach up, take the block or your prop in your hands. Same thing, open the legs and the arms overhead. Exhale, you switch. Inhale, you open. Good. Exhale, you switch. I like the modifications. Inhale, you open. What we want to start to feel is a burn in our belly. So if you start to feel a little burning sensation in that lower abdominal area, good. If you feel pinching, pain, cramping, not good. 2 more. And let's just do one more, those of us that have the prop. The next time the prop is in your hands, that'll be our last one. So next time, if you have the prop and it's in your hands, that'll be the last one. You can open up. And then exhale, we'll bend our knees into our body, place the prop off to the side, give it a little hug. Now to help release those abdominal muscles this morning, let's take a spinal twist. So we should all end up with our knees hugging to our body, feet parallel. Extend the arms out from the shoulders, palms down. On the exhale, let's lower our knees over to the right. If the thigh doesn't easily touch, slide a prop underneath it. Right hand to top thigh to intensify the twist. Sink the left shoulder into the ground, turn the head to the left. Even close the eyes. Start to slow the breathing down here as we come to the end of our practice. Let gravity traction everything out. Relax the face, the throat, and the shoulders. Next inhale brings the head and the knees up to center. If you feel like you need to do a little scooch in the low back, do so. Exhale, knees to the left. Add those props under the thighs as needed. Left hand on top thigh to deepen the twist. Sink the right shoulder down, turn the head to the right. Soft eyes are closed. Relax the face, the throat, and the shoulders. Let the weight of the body sink into the ground. One more breath. And then the next inhale brings the head and the knees back to center. Again, readjust the low back, the clothing, whatever you need to do. And if there's one last movement or pose you feel like your body needs today before final relaxation, feel free to do so. Maybe it's a happy baby to get a little bit more into those hips. Maybe we want to extend the legs back up to the ceiling, massaging those hamstrings into waterfall pose. Maybe we want to drop the feet to the floor, slide the shoulders under using our upper arm bones and lift our hips up to just open up the front of the hips from that little bit of abdominal work we did. When we're ready, we'll start to move into our final relaxation, Shavasana. to absorb our practice today. So if you have some props gathered up that you'd like to add into this pose to help the body relax, sliding pillows underneath the knees or legs, supporting the back of the head or the spine a little bit more, you may do so. You want to adjust the shoulder blades, rock out the head to find the back center of the skull. Allow those upper arm bones to roll open from the body, palms up, and fingertips curling up naturally. Poof the cheeks with air a couple times, yawn, stick out the tongue, whatever it takes to release the mouth, tongue, and jaw. Once we found that comfortable position, try to cultivate stillness here, letting go of any unnecessary movements, and just allowing the whole weight of the body to sink into the ground. Effortless, letting go of controlling the body, letting go of controlling the breath. Allowing a quality of peace and calm to come over the whole body. Notice a subtle rise and fall of the belly with the breath. And if the mind wanders or becomes distracted, we can gently bring it back to the soft, easy breath around the tip of the nose, the nostrils. We can rest the mind's eye at the third eye center, Agnya chakra, our place of intuition and wisdom. Or we can mentally repeat a positive affirmation or mantra over and over again. Giving ourselves just one more moment of this morning to let go, to relax, and to sink into Shavasana. Slowly coming back to the breath. And starting to breathe life back into the body. Making up toes, fingertips, a rock of the head, rolling out the ankles and wrists. Next inhale, we can re-extend those arms overhead into our long body stretch. Stretching out the legs, stretching out the body left to right. On the exhale, floating those arms down. Walking the feet in and hugging the knees in, giving our body a little massage across that low back. Right arm falls beside the head, rolling all the way onto our right side in Supta Balasana, sleeping baby pose. Pausing for a moment. And then keeping those eyes soft or closed, press into the ground, walking the body up. And we will come into any comfortable seated position. We can set our sit bones up on a little prop as needed. Finding those sit bones and sitting up as tall as possible through the crown of the head. So we'll go right into our finishing mantras this morning. Allowing the lower half of the body to be nice and grounded towards the earth. Resting the hands in Chin Mudra on the knees, palms up, and allowing the upper half of the body to lengthen and extend skyward through the crown of the head. Feel free to join in or simply sit with your breath for a moment. We'll start with the Om Purnamadav mantra, Om Shanti, and then I'll finish with the Hari Om mantra. Taking a deep breath in through the nose to begin. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om Tat Sat. And then being mindful of our surroundings, let's reach the arms up beside the body, palms up. Taking another nice big breath in through the nose, we'll reach those arms up towards the sky and gather up everything we need for the rest of this beautiful day. Turn the palms back out, big breath out. Release the fingertips all the way back down to the ground and let go of all that other junk we don't need today. And one more time together, inhaling, arms up. This time, bring the palms to touch. Exhaling, hands to Anjali Mudra in front of the heart. Humbly bowing our head down to our heart to honor and thank ourselves, our bodies, each other, and remembering to be grateful to anyone else that made it possible for us to practice our yoga together today. And I thank each and every one of you for making